Over the past decade, there has been a tectonic shift in consumer and business technology. Be it consumer-focused brands or brands chasing enterprise customers, technology today permeates across all major functions in any organization. At SoftwareSuggest, we bring to fore technologies that have shaped the way businesses function. Business Alphas is one such endeavor to provide a platform for business audiences to discover some of the most remarkable business success stories in the technology domain across the globe. Our guest for today is the founder and CEO of Keka, Vijay Yalamanchili. Keka is one of the best HR and payroll management software around the globe. Vijay started his career with one of the global tech giants. And when he started on his own, success eluded him a couple of times. But as Henry Ford once famously said, failure is only the opportunity to begin again, and this time, more intelligently. And that's exactly what Vijay did. How has Keka changed the game? Let's find out.
Vijay, welcome to the show. It's a pleasure to host you.
Pleasure likewise. Thank you.
So let's get started. So Vijay, tell us, with Keka, what is the problem that you meant to solve?
We were evaluating this HR product, one of the product that exists still in the market. We were evaluating, and we actually paid money for 6 months, and we ended up not using it at all because one, the HR person was not comfortable. None of the employees understood. I felt like this is a pain, and I felt like this is a problem to be solved.
You mentioned to me earlier that you flew down from US and you had other plans, and tell us about that story as well.
So Ramp is a company who I was working in US. Came back to India for 6 months. I was dabbling here and there. I was working part-time for them. And then I came up with this idea to set up an offshore development center for Ramp, and which was based out of and the concept was that I would actually start it in a university campus with zero investment. So that's how I started the Ramp India division. So when I was in Ramp and I was building that business, I came across 3 founders from, these were all students from IIIT. They started this photo link, and they were looking to, for money. And so I felt like, so they were building on this mobile visual mobile platform. So you could take a picture and then you're able to identify the objects, right? So I was really fascinated with what they have done. And I didn't have money myself, but I had one piece of land. And that land I sold, and that money I invested in PhotoLink, and eventually that's how I joined PhotoLink. So that's how those 2 startups happened. In the parallel, I continued to build on Ramp. We did pretty well. We were able to build a 100-people company, but it did so happen that we were growing, but the US division was not growing. And they had a lot of financial issues, whereas the Indian division was profitable. And whereas I was focusing on building US, and things were not going so well, so we decided to part ways, and so that's how I took an exit. It was not a very great exit. It resulted in a lot of fights, and I had to actually forego everything, and I came out of that. So that was in 2011. And 2012, we started Technovert. One of the things that always helped me was my employees. So employees from Ramp helped me build Technovert. Some of them still work for Technovert. I think so me being an employee who became a partner in the organization. So I always wanted that environment where any employee could work with that entrepreneurial spirit. And have that open environment. So that was something I always made sure exists in the organization. That's what actually helped a lot of our employees evolve into those roles. So that, I think, was the biggest lesson I learned from my previous experience.
In the recent times, especially in India, right, has adoption of technology increased in HR?
So there is adoption, there is that increasing sense of actually automating things. And this is even coming from a lot of very traditional businesses as well. Like, so there's a traditional manufacturing companies, FMCG companies, even they are trying to automate things. And because they're also having the same problem, they're all working remotely as much as possible, right? So there's that adoption, and I think this is a great time to be in. And this is so it's going to continue for the next 2 years. I see, even though post COVID also, I think the trend is not going to stop.
Do you see any challenges in hiring on onboarding because you have access to a lot of data? Right?
One thing, we have access to a lot of data. So I want to be very clear because we have in the contracts clearly written that we cannot view any of the customer data except for taking the analytics. We do have analytics that we do check occasionally. So onboarding now during these times, there are two impacts. One is the operational aspect. So operational aspect, you have to automate. There is no solution. So you have to seek all the documents through email, or if you have an automation system like Keka, you could onboard them automatically through Keka, right? But I think that's given now that there's no paperwork possible these days, right? It's all digital. So that part, I think people should not find any issues if they're automating. They've automated their systems. The other aspect, a bigger aspect, is employee engagement, right? So we, in the last 5-6 months, we onboarded almost 30 employees. We hired 30 employees in this period, and we did notice few issues. So one is, biggest thing is there's no personal connection, right? So there was one of our product managers from Keka, right? So he was based out of Chennai. He worked with us for 1.5 months, and then he was feeling totally disconnected despite having regular, daily calls, right? So he said, this is not working for me, and then he decided to come to Hyderabad. Because he came to Hyderabad, we said, okay, some of us will also go, go to the office and give him that experience. I think that is an experience that everybody seems missing, and it cannot go on. So it cannot go on for too long where you onboard all new employees from the scratch, and then you're able to create a culture. You could, but it's tough.
You're very careful about raising external funds, right? So why is that? I mean, here's an industry which is quite capital intensive, right? So
right. So I think the two answers to this, right? So one is we did invest some of our own money because we had this other business, services business. We did invest some money from TechnoWord, but if I have to compare with all my competitors in the market, it is probably like 1/10 of the money they may have invested. With one of the competitors, it is probably even 1/20th of what they have invested. So it's not right, but that's still some money we invested, right? So that's so it's not totally. Although I'm saying bootstrapped, it's bootstrapped because we also have a revenue generator from the services division. Otherwise, it is a capital intensive. So it requires an investment of at least 3 to 4 years of building a product before you can actually get adoption from at least, so the product should become compatible for at least 60% of the market before you could say you have a product market fit in this space. And for that to achieve, you will need 3 to 4 years. So it's a significant capital intensive product. The other part, being careful about investment and all. So I think one of the challenges is, so if you see, there are a lot of products that have been invested, but I would barely call any of them successful, and it is a problem. So what happens is, HR, unlike other platforms, right? Let's say if you bought a help desk or a CRM software, right? 80% of that functionality provided by that product works for at least a good 60-70% of the customers, right? So that is how those products work. Whereas in HR, what happens is you have a simple, every company has very different policies in their organization on how they work. A simple policy is not compatible with your system, they will not use the product. They will simply say, this does not work. So, a minor configuration, if it's not possible in the system, can become a blocker, and customer says, I don't want to adopt this platform, right? So these are the challenges you face in this space. These are unique to this space. So if we went for an investment, the first thing we would be chased from the investors is on the sales. And if I put all my energies on sales, selling is easy, by the way. Selling is because there are not many HR systems that are, good enough to meet the customer needs. Customers are looking for this software, and it's very easy to, in a sales pitch, to say, we can do this, and then a customer is ready to buy. So sales is easy, but retaining the customer, right, in the first 3 months is a first challenge. First 6 months is the next big challenge, right? If you're able to retain them during this period, then they are yours for lifetime. And this is where almost industry standard. I know some of the competitors, they have like a 35% churn during this first 6 month onboarding time, right? So there's no shortcut to it. You have to build the product to reach a stage where you are able to get 70% adoption in the market, where you're able to onboard them within those 30 days, right? So for us to get there, we did take time, and every product in the market, they all took time too. There's no shortcut to that. So that was the reason why we were not sure. In fact, we were running pretty good. In 2018, we had a stage where we had far too many customers, signing up for the product than we were able to even onboard them. At that point, we had to increase the pricing significantly and put a stop to those signups. We never have seen such a need for capital, because we were able to organically grow. We broke even in 2018, but we kept still infusing some capital. And today again, we broke even last month. So the cash flows are positive last month. But we might still infuse a bit, and we are looking to scale. So it's not like I may not be raising money. So I would be looking to raise money in the next few months. So we're doing the next major release in the 4 months from now. And I think we would be looking for money at that point, because we would have reached that stage where, we get almost 80-90% product adoption from the market. And we'll be able to, most likely we will raise money at that point.
Right. I get it. So when it comes to building a product, right, and I meant to ask this question to you earlier, but do you believe in going to the market with the MVP and then then scaling it up, or building the bells and whistles, or do you believe in taking the full scope of the product to the market?
So it really depends on the kind of product, right? So in our space, an MVP would not work, because the moment you hit a customer, the requirements are going to just exponentially grow, right? So in this space, it does not work. MVP won't work, right? But in many other businesses, that is the right approach. So in Technovert, we have a lot of startups we build products for, right? And for all of them, we suggest MVP. Some customers come and say, like, we want the product built. I don't want all this validation and all of those. But we tell them, we want to save your money. And we have found this, like, when you have done the validation, a lot of businesses, they realize, okay, that's probably not the problem we should be solving, right? So I think MVP is a right approach. But at the same time, you will not also be successful because your MVP was not good enough to sell. So there's that thing to solve too, right? So it's a balance that has to be right.
Last question, since you have over a decade of experience, right, starting out as an entrepreneur, any advice for future entrepreneurs that want to start in the same space or any space?
I see a lot of my employees, right, and a lot of freshers we interview, they all want to have their own startup, right? But I also noticed that the ambition is high, but that is the path that takes you there. The rough path, I don't think either they have not factored in or they don't want to go through that rough. So I think that's something they should stick to. And there are ways to bootstrap. You don't need capital all the time. But at the same time, times have also changed. It's very hard to find the right people. If there's any startup, I think today you cannot start a startup as a single founder anymore. You have to be at least 3 to 4 people to run a startup. And I think having good team that actually experiments constantly and is able to pivot very fast. So I think those will always succeed because market keeps changing and dynamics keep changing. You keep discovering new problems. So I'm not. So other than that, I don't know if I'm what giving any other advice. But I always believed having if there's a problem you love to solve and you're passionate about it, able to spend any amount of hours and smart about selling it, I think those are all you need, and people should be successful.
Thanks, Vijay. That was really a good advice, and I really hope that our listeners take leaf out of your book and get on with their passions in life. Really, thank you for joining us today. It was a pleasure having you.
Thank you.